What's going on, guys? TG or ThunderGod here, back with another pretty interesting video. Today I have Naruto and Sasuke, one of the best tag teams in fiction, undisputably, and having them take on every antagonist in the series during the events of each arc. What that means is I'll be taking the two as they are when the opponent is introduced and seeing how they fare against the opponent teaming up. Now, I want to start by saying I'll be skipping over any matchups where the duo blatantly wins in a 1v1 situation against somebody, or the duo has already teamed up against an opponent. So, Land of Waves, Chunin Exams, Konoha Crush, and Search for Tsunade will all be skipped in this videos as those arcs fit the criteria. And there's only literally like two opponents that I could place Naruto and Sasuke against in that arc, which would be like Itachi and Orochimaru, both of which aren't that interesting of discussions for obvious reasons. Naruto and Sasuke will also be replacing any teammates they have present. So for example, right, if I have like Naruto, Kakashi, Yamato, all these people against Kakuzu, they're not going to be there. It's just going to be like Naruto and Sasuke against like said character and whatever conditions I say for how strong the character is or where they're like presently at in strength. Lastly, I'll be going off of a 60% win rate required to win, meaning Naruto and Sasuke need to be able to win the matchup confidently, even if it may still be somewhat debatable, and vice versa. If they do have a win condition and it just isn't likely, I'm not going to give them the pass. So with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe if you're new here. Like me, like the channel, like the good stuff. Woo! Let's get into the video. First up, we have the Sasuke retrieval arc, and we're going to be talking about Naruto and Sasuke against the Sound 4 individually. Now, I got to clarify a couple things. I'm going to be using pre-Final Valley Sasuke. Naruto doesn't make too much of a difference since Naruto's like generally stronger than Sasuke at this point. And the Sound 4 they're going to be fighting against are the exhausted Sound 4 that the Genin had fought against. We do know the Sound 4 are exhausted as they're still recovering from their bout with Genma and Raido. And, you know, on top of, like, them noting how they can't move their bodies because, you know, that's the price they pay from going into Curse Mark Stage 2. The anime profile also makes it very explicit that the group is noted to be exhausted multiple times. So it's very clear that they're not going to be peak power in this situation. So starting off, we have Jirobo in, like, Choji's position. Now, it's kind of weird to talk about Sasuke pre-Final Valley. He should be, at the very least, comparable to each of the Genin that fought the Sound 4 despite being in a coma. He's shown to be able to be on par with Naruto post-Rasengan training, which also gives him a great, you know, and that Naruto's stronger as he has a greater handle on chakra control on top of just Rasengan being stronger than Chidori at this point. On top of this, Sasuke's able to compete with all the Sound 4 ninja jumping him in just his base, just no Sharingan. It's only when they start to use their jutsu and combo him up that Sasuke begins to get overwhelmed. But even then, he's able to initiate the Lion's Barrage on Sakon, which didn't work due to his like innate abilities. But he's still able to make moves while they're attempting this. And I do think it speaks to how Sasuke and the other Genin aren't that far apart at all. Which is consistent as Sasuke was in a coma and the other Genin were just training. This is more prevalent as, again, this is more fresh Sound 4, whereas the Genin jumped them while they were recovering from their skirmish. The bottom line is, though, that he's still not on any of the Sound 4's level, as after he unleashes the Sharingan and Curse Mark, Sakon blows him away with zero difficulty with his own Curse Mark. So he's still not at their level at full power, but because they're exhausted, he definitely fares a better chance. And then you have Naruto as support. Naruto and Sasuke should be coming in very confidently against Jirobo, who is a very basic brawler, the weakest of the Sound 4. And the problem with Jirobo is that he, you know, on top of being like kind of clowned around by Choji, and Choji is taking those pills which like grant him explosive power, but even then, that's only really elevating to like the level of the other Genin. Maybe you could say he's like stronger than Shikamaru, since even Shikamaru like notes this, that Choji's stronger than him, or that it can maybe speak to Choji's mentality. Regardless, you know, Choji is able to combat with this Jirobo. He's able to go blow for blow with him, even in the Curse Mark after taking more pills. And the problem with Jirobo is that he doesn't really have any defense for the Rasengan at this point. Naruto's Rasengan at this point can only be canceled out by Final Valley Sasuke Chidori, so it should be more than potent enough to actually just one-shot Jirobo blatantly. Maybe you could argue Chidori's a little different. And I will say, if like Jirobo does go into Curse Mark Stage 2, it is actually able to start brawling with Naruto and Sasuke. They will kind of get like dominated by his physical might, but I don't really think it would get to that point. Naruto and Sasuke do have a lot of diversionary tactics. They can transform into Shuriken. And Naruto should be able to catch Jirobo lacking, as he's able to trick the other three members of the Sound 4 by either hiding himself or having clones use Rasengan as diversions or using clones that are transformed as his teammates. Naruto's prowess with shadow clones and diversionary tactics has always been prevalent, and with Sasuke, this will only be enhanced. There is a chance that Jirobo might catch the duo in that same Earth-style dome that he caught the Genin 5. In which case, it's really tough to say, like, maybe Sasuke can perform a similar feat to Neji and see where the dome is weakest. But it just really makes it hard for them because even Naruto can't perform his Rasengan in, like, those conditions because they're getting their chakra sapped at a ridiculous rate. So it is possible. I will say that only happened really because Shikamaru was shadow possessing the Sound 4. And the group was just kind of grouped up, like, in a weird position and the ground around them formed up. So it's definitely possible, but Naruto and Sasuke just being stronger than this Choji, even more relative to when, like, he takes his, like, pills. This isn't even accounting for, like, Naruto and his QB amps, like, if the QB starts to unleash. Rasengan should one-shot, and Naruto has shown better feats against stronger and, I'd argue, more intelligent members of the Sound 4, which I think would enhance over to Jirobo, as even his arsenal isn't that crazy. And, like, you could even argue Chidori would be enough, as he just hasn't shown any of those defensive capabilities at that point. Next up, we have Kidomaru. Now, Kidomaru is an absolute unit, like an animal. And the problem with Kidomaru right off the bat, on top of, you know, he's performing crazy feats against all of the Genin, it's his chakra webbing, right? Because this is such an issue because Naruto himself doesn't really have an answer for the chakra webbing. Even his clones note this. Like, there's the chakra circulating inside the webbing just makes it, like, unbreakable. Like, kunai can't even breach it. You might be able to argue for Sasuke, like, he'll be able to see this, in which case Sasuke should be able to cut through it with one of his Shidoris. Sasuke at this point can do 2 through 3 Shidori per day. But the problem is that Kidomaru plays such a ranged game that it's going to be difficult for either Naruto or Sasuke to enact their, like, high potency, like, Shidori, Rasengan, jutsu. You kind of have to argue, like, Kidomaru gets caught playing, which he does in character. I will admit, like, Kidomaru in character, he's, like, known for playing games. Like, that's his whole shtick. Even, like, against Neji, he's like, oh, I'm gonna have fun playing with you. So if you make the argument, like, maybe Rasengan at the beginning might be able to penetrate past Kidomaru's, like, golden sweat armor, that could maybe extend to Chidori as well, although it's a little harder to quantify. In which case, there's definitely a possibility. The problem is once Kidomaru starts getting, like, he gets away from Naruto and Sasuke and starts playing range, like, he summons the spider, starts, like, slowing them down with all the webbing, because even the spiders all have, like, that same chakra webbing inside them that slows Neji down. It's just going to be too much for Naruto and Sasuke at this point. They just really don't have the toolkit. And then this isn't even discussing, like, if those high-speed lightning arrows come out, which is just going to be disastrous for the duo. And you could maybe argue, like, again, Naruto I will say this, Naruto, if he unleashes, like, the QB's chakra, should be able to slam around this Kidomaru, just going off of, like, the, you know, Sasuke encounter, and how that same Naruto slamming around curse mark Sasuke. But I do think that is a bit, like, it's harder because Naruto's constantly getting angered by Kidomaru when he talks about, like, Sasuke as a vessel, and even, like, he's just fighting against Sasuke in the Final Valley, he's getting more emotional. I'll say this, Naruto literally did go through a training arc where he learned to tap into the QB's chakra. So if you gotta go off that and he does start unleashing it, Kidomaru is gonna have no answer because Naruto will just be able to continue, like, he'll just regen any of the arrows just like he did against Sasuke Chidori, puncturing along. He's just gonna run around. He's gonna be too fast for Kidomaru. At which point, like, Kidomaru can't even play a long game at Curse Mark Stage 2. None of the Sound 4 can. So it'll kind of be disastrous. So I think Kidomaru has a distinct advantage in the mid fight, but, like, early to late fight, I actually do see, like, Naruto and Sasuke having it. Sasuke should also be very useful in helping Naruto, like, get rid of all these spiders, deal with the long-range arrows and all of that. Whether or not he'd be able to perceive him at that point might be up for debate. Generally, I lean towards Kidomaru in this matchup just because their only real way of, like, damaging him is via, like, their ace moves, and these two ranged, it's just not going to be, they're not going to be able to do it. Along with the chakra webbing going to be slowing them down, it's just going to be way too much. And Naruto's only real win condition is to go into that QB power that was being derived from emotion. Yes, Naruto could tap into the QB's chakra, but, like, when he gets the QB's, like, facial expressions and whatnot, that's when he's getting, like, super emotional. He's letting his hatred seep through and all that. I should also note that the Neji that Kidomaru had fought against is much stronger than Chunin Exam's Neji. It should be obvious, but he's training with Hiyashi. And even in the anime, he actually does the 128 palms against Kidomaru, and it just does nothing. But there is a difference between that and Neji. So he's just shown a lot more mastery with the Gentle Fist and his ability to emit chakra. So there's also a far stronger Neji and the one that's already, like, kind of comparable to that same Sasuke in the Chunin Exams. Whether you think he's stronger or he wins that fight, irrelevant. I just think they're very comparable, as many characters in the Chunin Exams are. Next up, we have Tayuya. I think they beat Tayuya very confidently just due to how Shikamaru, well, Naruto was able to trick Tayuya consistently with his clones, and, like, she's not the brightest of the group, so I definitely think him and Sasuke would be able to make some plays, especially with the shuriken. They might be able to, like, throw some shuriken around the battlefield to have Sasuke transform. This is especially true or effective just due to how Tayuya doesn't really carry any weapons on her. It's just her flute. And this is exemplified more with her summons and how Shikamaru is able to like dodge their attacks, dodge their chakra eating worms, all of that. He kind of like outplays her, but with his base stats, it's not like she's so much farther above him. So they should be very fine in this encounter. I think they do. They are able to take it. Tayuya is the same as like Jirobo. She doesn't really have any defense for like Chidori or Rasengan. Like both techniques one shot. Honestly, like Tayuya's best attribute in this fight is her Genjutsu. Now, a lot of people bring up a lot of people bring up Kabuto using her Genjutsu, and not a lot of people understand that Kabuto is amping her Genjutsu with Senjutsu, so it's that much stronger. No one brings this up for some reason, but they're not the same. Like, that is a much stronger Kabuto. All of his attacks are being enhanced by Senjutsu. So it's just so much stronger. Now, the reason you can also say this is due to how Shikamaru in part 1 is able to break his finger and break out of it. Whereas, like, in Shippuden, like, Sasuke and Itachi need to look at each other to break out of it. So they're clearly not the same. They're very much not the same. This is a much less effective version of the Genjutsu. In which case, you could definitely make a argument that Sasuke might be able to break Naruto out. Or they kind of deduce something similar with injuring themselves. Sasuke could probably lean towards breaking out of the Genjutsu just since the Sharingan's a lot better at breaking through it, defensively speaking. But, you know, his Sharingan isn't fully mastered at this point, so there is a little wiggle room there. But the Genjutsu shouldn't be a make it or break it deal. Some people might bring up Kurama breaking Naruto out of the Genjutsu, but this just isn't true for so many reasons. Kurama doesn't care about Naruto at this point. He doesn't care if he's under Genjutsu. He doesn't break him out versus Itachi in Shippuden, so he doesn't break him out against an Akatsuki member who Kurama has knowledge wants to like pull him out of Naruto. So it's like, okay, if he's not doing that, then like he's not going to do it for Naruto here, in case anybody brings that up. The two should be able to take it pretty confidently against Tayuya. The Doki aren't the craziest stat-wise. And her herself, you know, even in Curse Mark Stage 2, like Shikamaru can like kind of have like a chakra tug of war with her. And kind of like have like he's able to like stall her a little bit. So, you know, Naruto and Sasuke at this point should also be above Shikamaru. If not Sasuke, definitely Naruto. Next up, we have Sakon. Now, Sakon's very interesting. Alleged strongest member of the Sound 4. And Sakon's really, like, his main attribute is that, you know, physical blows, like, I'll start by saying physical blows aren't going to matter. We saw this from the Lion's Brush. He could just swap out with Ukon and revert any damage or heal himself, making it so any physical strikes really aren't, you know, doing anything. He also can, like, amp his attacks by, like, having more arms and, like, legs protrude out, making him able to, like, have a barrage of fists. You see he's even able to, like, blow away rocks and all this stuff. So, in Taijutsu, they're not going to be able to scrap with him. He's just too much of an absolute animal. Sasuke is going to get dominated as well. Once Curse Mark Stage 1 Sakon comes out, Sasuke is going to be irrelevant in this fight, and Naruto is going to begin to get overwhelmed as well. The problem with Sakon, too, on top of being such a juggernaut in close quarters, is that he can separate, turning this into two 1v1s instead of a 2v1, which also completely mitigates Naruto and Sasuke's advantage at this point. And to actually take it a step further, on top of, like, for example, right, let's say, like, Sasuke shreds Sakon in half for whatever reason with Chidori, he could regen from that. You know, maybe Rasengan might be a little different because of how, like, it kind of does that internal organ effect. Like, it's kind of the same with Kabuto. He's not able to regen. He's like, my insides took way too much damage. So maybe you could argue Rasengan. But if the two do separate, it's going to be disastrous for Naruto and Sasuke. This gets, like, taken to another level when you consider that Sakon can merge with Naruto or Sasuke and actually, like, mix his cellular structure with theirs and start messing, like, completely with it. He's able to pretty much recreate cells to form, like, his own arms and stuff outside his body. Now, there's no reason this shouldn't work on Sasuke. Like, Sasuke's pretty much going to get, like, he has nothing to really answer for this ability. Naruto, on the other hand, this ability would not be as effective on, at least in my opinion, and this is due to Kurama. Now, we actually see in Shippuden when Pa attempts to merge himself with Naruto, Kurama's not having it. He just spooks Pa out of him. He like jets him off. He's not letting Pa merge with Naruto. So I think something to a similar degree might be present here as well. I don't think Sakon's ever done this type of technique to a Jinchuriki with that much chakra, or if he's going to be able to like mess with the cellular structure while Kurama's inside Naruto. Kurama doesn't like to share like that space with anybody. So I definitely think it'd be a case to where like he tries to merge with Naruto, gets spooked out, in which case it's just like a normal fight again. And maybe Naruto, you could argue, would like take it, but at that point, like Ukon or Sakon's gonna take down Sasuke, in which case they both kind of double team Naruto. Again, like QB Naruto might be a little debatable, but it's just that Sasuke is so lacking in this encounter, and we already saw Sakon versus Sasuke already, that it's just not too much. And Sakon already kind of hard counter Sasuke too. So, I think Sakon also takes this one. I just don't think they have the tools in their arsenal. They can win. I think Rasengan's a potential win con, but along with QB, but again, it's just like base to base, like he has just too many advantages. Next up, we have Kimmimaro. Now for Kimmimaro, I'll actually be giving Sasuke like Final Valley Sasuke. I'll be like changing him up as he actually does emerge from the coffin while Kimmimaro's alive. I won't be giving him 3 Tomoe Sharingan as he goes through some emotional revelations before he's able to unlock that. So we have Final Valley Sasuke and the Naruto that was fighting Kimmimaro. Now, both of these fighters should be definitively weaker than Kimmimaro. That much is clear. Sasuke only really approaches that levels when he gets his 3 Tomoe, and that's not going to be present here. We also have to acknowledge the fact that Kimmimaro did run an absurd gauntlet of Naruto, Lee, and Gaara before he finally croaked. And even then, he was going to win against Gaara. He was about to ice him there. Now, Kimmimaro's stamina is somewhat dependent on how you interpret his illness. As if you think it's more of a timer thing, like he has a set time limit left, or if going into the higher stages of the curse mark actually speed up his illness in the rate he approaches death. I've always thought that going into curse mark stage 2 definitely sped it up, as he doesn't show any signs of his illness taking effect on him until he goes into curse mark stage 2. And even when he enters it, Kabuto notes that he should still be fine for a while yet. But despite that, Kimmimaro shortly dies after Gaara, does that sand burial on him in version 2. In which case, we're left with an interesting scenario, as quite frankly, Naruto and Sasuke don't really have a lot of ways to damage Kimmimaro. It's even questionable if their ace moves would be that effective on him due to how he can create that defensive bone under his skin, being amplified even further when he goes into this version 2 curse mark, as he's quite literally walking through sand coffins at that point. It's quite absurd. And even when Gaara does the large scale sand burial, he's still able to perform the Bracken dance and like shoot all those bones out the ground and like protrude out one of them. So Naruto and Sasuke are going to get dominated by Kimmimaro. I don't think that they'll have the most trouble reacting to him, at least in Sasuke's case, especially since Lee is able to react to Kimmimaro for a short bit, with this Sasuke's new base form being the equivalent of his dual Sharingan, so his Sharingan being present would only amp that further. Along with Kimmimaro just having such offensive presence, Naruto and Sasuke just don't have the overwhelming defenses like Gaara did. So it doesn't really seem likely for the duo, as they really have to push Kimmimaro to that point. Now, I will say Sasuke is very comparable to this Kimmimaro. You could definitely make a case that him going into the higher stages of the curse mark, even with this 2 Tomoe Sharingan, might be able to press Kimmimaro to those higher levels. We do know that Heaven and Earth curse marks are touted to be the most special among them. The anime profiles actually take this a step further and just verbatim say they're both the strongest, which you may be able to extend into their power-ups or like their multipliers being more comparable. So if you kind of look at it like that, you would have version 2 Sasuke, who should be somewhere between curse mark stage 1 and curse mark stage 2 Kimmimaro, who would be fighting alongside potentially QB Naruto. I don't think Naruto would go into those higher stages of the cloak unless Kimmimaro really pressed him, which he could. In which case, if Naruto does achieve the one tail, I definitely think they could press him even further. But their win con to like pressing him to exhaustion with the illness, I don't think is as likely, just due to the gauntlet Kimmimaro ran, and how version 2 should be above Sasuke's version 2 at this point, just due to him having a stronger base. If they do tango in version 2, I do think if Sasuke lasts long enough and Naruto provides ample support, it's definitely possible. It's unfortunate because QB Naruto is just definitively above Kimmimaro at this point. And unless you argue maybe the QB's giving him more chakra in the Final Valley, which I don't think is present. I think it's like the same amount. There doesn't really seem to be too much. So I do think this one's a bit debatable, but I do lean towards Kimmimaro in this case, just due to all the factors present here. If it was maybe 3 Tomoe Sharingan, I would probably say Sasuke and Naruto, but because it isn't and how Sasuke is going to have to develop, I think Kimmimaro would take it at this point, just due to how they're not able to damage him. He has all these one-shot techniques. He's able to continuously take these sand burials. He's even able to chakra fatigue Gaara. Like, he's just tanking so many hits that Gaara notes he's out of chakra. So Kimmimaro at this point is absolutely ridiculous, and I do think he takes the W here. Next up, we have Deidara at the beginning of the Kazekage rescue mission. Now, Deidara is interesting because he fights a stronger Sasuke, one that absorbs Orochimaru. And not only is this Sasuke like absorb Orochimaru, we actually know like from the beginning of Shippuden, they say like it's 6 months until Orochimaru can absorb or like take Sasuke's body. So Sasuke on top of this has 6 months of training in his belt. So I don't think he's going to be performing nearly as well in this fight on top of being, a normal counter for Deidara. And the problem with this is, right, if Sasuke's not on Deidara's level yet, Naruto definitely isn't, because even when Naruto goes into like he starts unleashing like the 1 or 2 tails, Deidara isn't even concerned with him. He thinks Kakashi is the issue. So it's kind of like, and it's kind of the case for like early Shippuden, like if Naruto at this point isn't really up to Sasuke's level of strength, and Sasuke isn't even up to a level of strength where he like messes with Deidara in a more high diff fight in the original timeline, then it's not really looking good for the duo. Even with like the original context, Sasuke would just probably not perform as well in that fight, or maybe not be able to react as well. In which case, Naruto's still the lagging one as he goes through like Rasen Shuriken training and is still weaker than Sasuke. So it's just, you know, it doesn't really seem too good for the duo against Deidara at this point in the series. There's too many jumps to say like Sasuke would be able to perform as well. So I don't really think he'd be able to take it against Deidara at this point. He just needed more training under his belt. And you actually do see like he's training consistently. Like Orochimaru throws an army at him and even tells Orochimaru, "You're going to teach me a new jutsu today." So he is learning a lot more, and he's even practicing in secret for when like he fights Orochimaru, because even Orochimaru knows like he doesn't know the change in Sasuke's chakra form. He's never seen it before. So with all this in mind, I don't think they'd be able to beat Deidara at this point. There's just too many strength differences. Even if I gave you like Naruto makes like 1,000 QB clones, Deidara plays a ranged game and Naruto can't really touch him. You know what I mean? Like if QB Naruto's not doing it, base Naruto isn't either. Next up, we have Sasori. I think Sasori's quite literally the same thing. I'm going to be honest. Naruto's very susceptible to Sasori's poison. We see Sakura, who studied up, Sasori's poison. She's planning to use it on Sasuke. She slashes Naruto's cheek with it, and you actually do see he's physically afflicted by it. Yeah, it's not deadly, but the fact that it does stun him momentarily is telling that he is susceptible to poison, at least for the short term. And then Sasuke with the curse mark. And this actually extends into like Sasuke Retsuden, with like Sakura's even surprised there's a poison that exists that can even afflict Sasuke. So, you know, maybe you could say like Sasuke might have some level of immunity to Sasori's poison, but Naruto's just not the case. In which case, you know, Naruto does have some options. Like maybe he can overwhelm Sasori. He can create like a bunch of clones to like counteract his large scale puppets. But like, it's just there's so much poison involved with each grain of iron sand having poison coating on it that it's almost hard to say, like for Naruto's case, because he's the most lagging in this encounter, that he's not going to get tagged. Now maybe you could argue he shields himself with shadow clones and all that, but he's just not going to be able to keep up with that level of combat. Sasuke's a little different. You know, again, this Sasuke's a lot weaker than the one that fought Deidara. Maybe not a lot weaker, but again, like unquantifiably weaker. So it's kind of hard to gauge him. I will say Sharingan's a very good matchup against Sasori. It's going to be able to see his heart, see his chakra threads, going to be able to cut all that. In which case, you know, Sasuke might have an advantage with all those factors. It's just kind of like Naruto doesn't make up the difference. And it's like, okay, maybe you think like Sakura, right? Sakura just gets clowned on by Sasuke and she's able to compete with Sasori. There's a bit of evidence to say like she's kind of mentally amped during that fight, along with the fact that she's still recovering from Ninetales poison when she got like stunned on by Sasuke. I'm not saying she's stronger than him, because she's not, but like the Ninetales is afflicting her and Naruto when they do get dominated by him. This isn't even talking about like Sasori's 100 puppets or how like his own puppet body is like much stronger than the third Kazekage puppet. So it just doesn't seem likely. They don't really have too much to deal with the Iron Sand. There is some evidence to say maybe the Iron Sand's like weak to Raiton, but again, like it's not like Sasuke's gonna slam his Chidori blade into it and like the Iron Sand's gonna dissipate. It's just not gonna happen. So for these reasons, I just don't think like it's you can make the case that Sasuke and Naruto would win. Another way to look at it is that Sasori versus Deidara is a debatable topic. I think they're on a similar tier, and there's a weaker Sasuke and the one that can high div Deidara. And this Naruto's not on Deidara's level. In which case, you know, I think it is kind of telling, along with the fact that Naruto, again, is very susceptible to, like, this poison. So, I think against Deidara and Sasori, Naruto and Sasuke at this point just can't quite clear it yet. And, you know, even with the Sasori fight, there's so many variables about, like, the antidote, all the prep Chio had, like, her being the literal counter to Sasori. Even him, like, implied to have thrown the fight at the end of it. So, it's just, like, you know, there's all this stuff, and, you know, Deidara has his own explanation, but they shouldn't be on the level of these two. And again, Naruto's just so lagging that it's just not really possible for Sasuke to make up the difference at this point, at least in my eyes. Next up, we have the Tenchi Bridge versus Sick Orochimaru. We also know that Sasuke, pre-absorption Orochimaru, was weaker than him. He was training in secret. Like, there's jutsu like he wasn't revealing to Orochimaru, so he obviously was always planning on betraying him. But he blatantly admits to Kirin that he only was able to take down Orochimaru because he was already like super sick to begin with, or like on his deathbed via like his body not being is like his body's time limit being up. So you also see in the anime like so when you know they have that training scene where like Sasuke's fighting an army. He like asks Orochimaru, he's like, "Are we fighting today? Like, what's going on? Are we about to spar?" And then Orochimaru's like, "Nah." So Sasuke's actually even implied to have fought Orochimaru in the past and like trained with him, and still is like making these statements. So Sasuke himself is not on this level. Naruto, on the other hand, you know, let's say I get, because you know, base Naruto's not questionable. Naruto realistically, like 1 through 3 tails is on the same level as Sasuke in my eyes. 4 tails Naruto's always been stronger than Sasuke in my opinion. I don't agree with like anybody who says that Sasuke is stronger than 4 tails Naruto just because Orochimaru is like throwing provocation at Naruto. I think that was just, it's ignoring the feats of how strong that 4 tails Naruto actually was. So when you look at that and how 4 tails Naruto only really emerged because Orochimaru was like talking that crazy about Sasuke, and if Sasuke's right here, it might not happen. Now, if you do include 4 tails Naruto, I think it still doesn't really give them a confident W because 4 tails Naruto at that point can't discern from friend or foe. So it's not like he's going to be able to work with Sasuke. Like Sasuke and Orochimaru are actually like equal enemies to him at that point. So like if you were going to give it to Naruto and Sasuke, you just have to say like Sasuke doesn't fight Orochimaru, waits for Naruto to get angry into the 4 tails, and like waits for them to kind of like even out Orochimaru's body to start to reject him and all this stuff for him to like run out of stamina a little bit. And then Sasuke jumps him. Which is, you know, I don't even think Naruto would get to the 4 tails, in which case, like, Orochimaru was confidently, like, talking crazy to Naruto, even after Naruto, like, gashed his face in, which, like, nothing. So, with all this in mind, like, it just doesn't seem likely that Sasuke and Naruto would be able to beat this Orochimaru, even combined at this point. Like, Orochimaru, it's just, like, even fractions of his chakra are so strong, even in this 6th stage. So, they just really shouldn't be able to beat him. Again, like, Sasuke's stronger, and he's not able to. That's all you really kind of need to look at, as Naruto's lagging, and he's not able to offer up proper support. Next up, we have the Akatsuki Suppression Arc. Now, for starters, I'll be giving Naruto Rasen Shuriken and the fruits of his training, as Hidan and Kakuzu are technically still alive when he attains it. Like, Kakuzu only dies around the same time he pulls up to the battlefield against Kakuzu, but I think it's close enough to where, like, if I give Naruto these abilities, it's kind of fair game. We can start with Hidan, who, quite frankly, kind of gets stomped out here with the combined might of this Naruto, and a Sasuke who, this Sasuke should be much more comparable to the heavy Sasuke that fought against Deidara. You could just honestly say he's almost as strong, as the time frame is much closer than like the start of Shippuden. So you have a Sasuke who Naruto thinks he's like caught up to, which he hasn't at this point. Clearly he's not as strong. This same Naruto also approaching on Kakashi's level of strength via Kakashi himself noting this. Now, I'll say this, I've never thought this Naruto would beat Kakashi one-on-one, nor do I think he has like a nuanced arsenal. He doesn't have any answers for Kamui. Kakashi's base arsenal with Sharingan and all his various jutsu is so much stronger. I believe this is more so in reference to just Rasen Shuriken being stronger than anything in Kakashi's arsenal, which is supplemented by the fact that Kakashi literally double backs on this statement right after he finds out Naruto can't use this jutsu consistently. But the bottom line here is that Sasuke is stronger than a Naruto who was approaching Kakashi's level of strength, which can lead us to make some easy deductions about him versus Hidan. I don't think Hidan would ever tag him via Sharingan. The fact that Kakashi never once gets tagged by Hidan, I think just speaks volumes about how the same thing would go with Sasuke, who is much more likely to just straight up decapitate him via Kenjutsu. So I don't even think Naruto is entirely necessary. Hidan's stats just aren't anywhere near the Sasuke's, or if like they were comparable, Sasuke just has such a more nuanced arsenal and can amp himself via the curse mark. So even base to base, if they were somewhat relative, it just wouldn't be a fight. And then you have Naruto who could just simply aid him with his clones and all the absurd trickery he can do with that. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the Kakuzu section, but Naruto's clone game, it's top tier. He's brolic with them clones. The plays he pulls off, unparalleled in the series. So the duo do take a confident W here. Next up, we have Kakuzu. Now, Kakuzu is very interesting because I feel he's somewhat underrated. Check out my Eternal Rivals versus the Akatsuki video where we talk a lot more in depth on Kakuzu as a character and his abilities and whatnot. But the fight with Kakuzu is weird as he doesn't use his Diamond Morph after Kakashi Raikyuris one of his hearts. And it's not like Kakashi Raikuri'd any Earth Style heart because that doesn't exist. The Earth Style is Kakuzu's own abilities. That was simply the Water heart that got taken out. So Kakuzu doesn't really use his strongest attribute in the fight consistently via the counter being present, which I believe would be the same thing for Sasuke. We'll talk about Naruto in a second, but Sasuke really shouldn't struggle too much in this fight, at least against Kakuzu individually or his hearts. I'll just tackle the hearts really quickly here before I address Kakuzu himself and like some of the ways this fight can go. The hearts themselves shouldn't tag Kakuzu. The only times they attempt or almost tag Kakashi is when they blow up Hidan, who is like running around and trying to swing at Kakashi. Even with that, Kakashi's able to dodge the wind heart. He's able to confidently dodge the fire heart, although he can't like overwhelm it even with his water style as it's being enhanced by the wind heart. Even the fastest heart, the right on heart, is able to be blocked by Kakashi even when he's attempting to save Ino and Choji. And even speaking on Ino and Choji, who are horrible support in this matchup, they're even able to react to the Fire Heart along with Shikamaru. So, you know, these hearts aren't particularly fast, and I think the fact that Kakashi, who at this point in this series isn't known for his like extreme chakra reserves, even against Pain, we see is very limited. The fact that he's able to continuously use Raikiri along with other jutsu and can continuously react to the hearts, I think is telling. The hearts are extremely potent, I will say, as even the Lightning Heart matches Kakashi's like dual Raikiri. But I don't think that necessarily matters if it wouldn't hit Sasuke, who is going to have an even a bigger advantage due to Curse Mark Stage 2, which will allow him to fly around and actually pick off some hearts individually. We know from the War Arc the hearts actually can be destroyed. We don't have any durability feats, which, you know, you could say maybe there's no anti-feats for them either. However, in all likelihood, they probably aren't that strong. To the point, they're more durable than Kakuzu's Diamond Hardening, which kind of got countered already. And Sasuke's Chidori should be very comparable to Kakashi's Raikiri at this point. You might ask, like, why doesn't Kakuzu absorb his hearts? Like, why doesn't he just absorb them all into himself and fight that at the beginning? My only issue with this is that he doesn't do so really in character at all. He only really goes and fuses with his hearts once they start dropping. Might chalk this up to him wanting to take Kakashi's heart, which he did want to do. However, I think that only came about once he started losing hearts. He's like, all right, I'm going to take your hearts to replace mine. I don't think that was the intent in the initial bit of the battle. So all Sasuke would really need to do to kind of force Kakuzu into that scenario is just destroy 2 of the hearts. And this isn't even talking about Naruto, who's also going to be able to provide support via the large-scale shadow clones. Large-scale Rasengan, like the Odama Rasengan. And if Naruto actually does take out a hearts, like if they take out too many of Kakuzu's hearts, and he only really has like 1 to fuse with, it's going to be very easy for Naruto and Sasuke to take him on. As we did see Naruto versus Kakuzu when he did have 2 of his hearts. Now, I will grant you that Naruto did have guardrails because the Rasen Shuriken failed. And I do think in this case, Sasuke would be able to provide ample support. But Naruto is able to trick Kakuzu with his shadow clones and make maneuvers around him to the point he opens him up for a Rasen Shuriken, which might be even easier as this Naruto was returning from training. Even Kakuzu notes he's a bit disheveled. So I think this is a high diff fight either way, but I think you really just have to argue that Sasuke can press Kakuzu into that fused form for Naruto to enact the Rasen Shuriken. And Kakuzu's fused form isn't a joke in any capacity. It's just that Naruto hard counters it so hard. It's ridiculous how strong the Rasen Shuriken is. So if they can press Kakuzu, which I do think they can, as Sasuke will have an easier time, Naruto can just enact some similar strategies to what he did in the canon timeline. All Sasuke really has to do at that point is cover him. And this isn't even talking about Sasuke and all his abilities. With the potential for Kirin, now I don't want to just say he can do Kirin. Even though it's implied, Itachi's, he is helping him in the battle. So we don't know fully, but that always is a backup option. Even Sasuke kind of alludes to it against Deidara. So there's always that, but I do think Naruto and Sasuke will take this high diff, as Sasuke should be very comparable to the Kakashi that fought Kakuzu. He should have better circumstances, even though I think that Kakuzu is stronger than that Kakashi overall. All Sasuke really has to do is take out a couple hearts for Kakuzu to fuse and Naruto to take out the remaining hearts. So high diff for the duo. Next up, we have Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant, and then we have Naruto and Sasuke versus Pain in the Rain Village, and they get absolutely obliterated. I'm not gonna lie to you. Each path of Pain, like even like the human path, is like even while blind, like clowning base or Sage Mode Jiraiya. So it's just like you have to ask yourself, like, is Sasuke or Naruto on Sage Mode Jiraiya's level at this point? No, they're clearly not. They're just not that strong. In Pain's this is 3 of the weaker paths of Pain. I might argue, like the Diva and Asura path are not present during this fight at all. The same Asura path that just blew off Sage Mode Jiraiya's arm. Maybe you could argue like off guard, but still he should have like that base durability. So, you know, Naruto and Sasuke don't really have it against like full power Pain. Even if I argue like the 3 lesser Pains, I don't even think they'd be able to clear, as this Naruto's outside the village. He's still the Rasen Shuriken Naruto, the jutsu that he can't even use consistently. And then just Heavy Sasuke, who like took on Deidara, but still like Sage Mode Jiraiya is stronger than Heavy Sasuke. So, you know, Pain in the Rain Village should clear pretty low diff. Next up, we have a fated battle between brothers. We have Sick Itachi. I think Sick Itachi is the same thing as Pain. I think he absolutely demolishes. He was demolishing Sasuke in his fight. Sasuke did have a good showing, but Itachi could have ended that fight at any point if he really went full power. The sandbagging was crazy in that fight. That's very self-explanatory. And you know what's interesting, right, is that if you want to take it a step further, Naruto and Sasuke fight like these weakened versions of characters that like dominated their teachers. So like Naruto goes through a training arc. He fights a weakened version of Pain, who beat Jiraiya, and you have Sasuke fighting a weakened version of Itachi, who would go on and beat Orochimaru in the same fight. So it's like, not only did these characters display their dominance, they displayed their dominance over the teachers in like the same fight or relative time frames, which is just crazy to think about. So, you know, Sick Itachi's dominating. Even before this, like, he puts Naruto under a genjutsu casually. So, you know, Sick Itachi low diffs just as much as Pain does. Sasuke and Naruto just aren't on that level. Same thing here. And with the genjutsu point, I already addressed that earlier. Itachi puts Naruto under genjutsu twice in Shippuden, and Kurama does not break him out either time. So, you know, it's pretty clear. Next up, we have verse fatigue Pain in the Lee Village with Intel. So, you know, I'll give Naruto the toads just since, like, he should be able to summon them. Even, like, you know, if you argue he could just summon Gamabunta, he does have it does seem like he has a summoning contract with Gamahiro since he summons him in the war. So, like, for the sake of, like, continuity, I'll just give Naruto the toads. Naruto just won't have Ma and Pa, which I also helped mitigate the summons, but they didn't really do too much in the fight. In which case, we have Sage Mode Naruto with the scroll and Taka Sasuke. Now, Taka Sasuke's are like definitely the weakest character here. Even like the lower paths of Pain at this point are still able to keep pace with Naruto. The Preta path can like move at relative speeds, and like even though like he dodges Naruto's punch, he gets hit by the nature energy in the air, like the air punch. So it's like you kind of gotta have to ask yourself, like these paths of Pain, like even while fatigued, are still messing with Naruto. And even though like Naruto's stronger than them individually, the Diva path is out for like 4 to 5 chapters at this point. It's an absurd amount of time. And you know, and the Diva path would have been performing so many KOs had he been present. He would have done, like, literally the second he comes out, like, Naruto loses the fight. And the way I look at this, right, because, you know, Sasuke at this point, you know, he can use the Mangekyo Sharingan and can use a Madarasu, but his just raw stats just aren't up to par at this point. He's going to be lacking. He's really just support for Naruto. Maybe you could argue, like, he summons Naruto's additional clone on Mount Miyaboku. He can help him out in that regard. He also might be able to eliminate a path of Pain alongside Naruto before the Diva path recovers. You really have to ask yourself, like, I think the bottom line with this discussion is, can the duo run through every path of Pain before the Diva path recovers? Because once the Diva path recovers, I think Naruto and Sasuke blatantly lose. Like, I don't think they have a way to take him down. And the reason I say they blatantly lose is on top of, like, fighting Six Tails Naruto or taking a hit from him in the manga strictly, and then sealing the Nine Tails, the Diva path goes on to fight Sage Mode Naruto again and waste his Sage Mode energy. So it's kind of like, okay, you have him, like, even if Naruto's like Sage Mode had continued from that point, we kind of do see that it would have ran out after the Diva path had expended like more energy and Nagato had expended much more chakra. Because you even see after the Chibaku Tensei, he's throwing up blood and stuff like that. Like, it did take a toll on him. So if like the fight does kind of go in an original route, like you have to ask yourself, like, is Sasuke going to 1v1 the Diva path? It just doesn't seem likely. And even a Madarasu, like, it would be useful against some of the paths, I will argue, but again, like, the Preta path should be able to dodge it. I would also argue that Diva path should be able to sense a Madarasu coming if Sasuke does try to use it. We do see that the Diva path, the anime doesn't really make this clear, but when you look at the manga, Nagato or Pain is like able to expand his pupils and go into like a chakra sensory mode. We see this. He's able to sense the barrier in surrounding Konoha. He's able to assess how much Sage Mode energy or like nature energy Naruto has left in his body and deduce that his Sage Mode had run out. Nagato also blatantly senses Itachi using a Madarasu before he uses it against Naruto and Ko when they brought back his Edo Tensei. So I would even make the case, like, if Pain does know about Madarasu at this point, which there is general lore for it, like even the Cloud Village does know, so I feel like you could make a good case for it. Pain would be able to, you know, whether it be the Diva path, like repel it, or maybe the Preta path tries to absorb it. I think that's a big problem as well. So I don't even think Madarasu is the most useful, as it also fatigues Sasuke very quickly, as he's very injured at this point. His fighting style has been reworked. He's just not the most useful. So I think wherever you go to is like an absolute highest difficulty fight, but I'm definitely leaning towards Pain still, just due to how Naruto had all these factors. He even had Ma and Pa supporting him, and he still lost, and the Diva path was still able to continue to go blow for blow and run out his Sage Mode counter once again. So I kind of lean towards Pain in this encounter. I think it could be high diff either way. If you think otherwise, that's entirely fair. Next up, we have the 5 Kage Summit. Now, there actually isn't too much to talk about in this arc, as most of the Kage aren't villains or antagonists. You can maybe argue in, like, Sasuke's perception they are, but if I were going to kind of, like, go down that road and use, like, everybody they fought against, this video would just be way too long, so I have to skip these guys for now. But we actually do have an interesting fight, that being Naruto and Sasuke in B's position against Kisame. Now, during that fight with Kisame, Sasuke is still recovering in Obito's Kamui dimension. So in this time frame where Kisame fights B, Sasuke is still in the Kamui dimension being healed by Kirin, but he does emerge quite literally like a couple chapters later, so I'm just going to give him start of Danzo fight just to make things a lot easier to talk about. In which case, we have Sage Mode Naruto and 5 Kage Summit Sasuke Danzo fight against Kisame. I think this is a very interesting fight, and I'll say off rip, I definitely think Kisame is going to have a very hard time in this fight. Kisame being able to react to version 1 and base Killer Bee, along with being able to throw down with Might Guy, who is suppressed in their final fight, or is implied to be, as he wants to obtain intel. Hirodora being in the water, meaning it would be a bit slower. We know this as it's air pushing against the water. Water is 800% more dense than air, and is arguably not even full power Hirodora, as Might Guy is literally letting Kisame live at the end of it all too. So I definitely think these three characters are very relative in their power ranges in terms of who they can react to, what they're able to combat. And I'll start off by saying that Sage Mode Naruto is a horrible matchup for Kisame, just due to how he cannot siphon off any of Naruto's chakra, lest he's going to risk turning into a frog like the Path of Pain that was absorbing Naruto's chakra did. To also be a bit fair to Kisame, Naruto was standing still when Pain did this, so he was able to absorb more nature energy. However, Naruto had expended a lot of chakra using Rasen Shuriken and Rasengan variants, and we know like Rasen Shuriken takes up, or like, I don't want to say half of his nature supply when he's in Sage Mode, but like he can only use 2, which kind of does imply that. So the Sage Mode version that the Preta Path absorbed from Naruto was not one that was full power. So the reason Naruto standing still matters is due to how Pain actually does tear off his Sage Mode cloak and is still fine. I do think if he absorbed a full power one, the same thing would happen. He'd turn into a frog, just to be a little bit more generous to Kisame, but I don't think it changes too much. Sasuke is just as bad, as he can wrap himself in the Susanoo very quickly, faster than the Raikage, slamming him on the ground, and lower versions of his cloak. And the reason this matters is because Sasuke can even like shoot up a Amaterasu on par with like as fast as version 2 Raikage. Obviously, you know, the flames don't really have to travel that far of a distance, so them appearing this quickly isn't the craziest thing. But when considering that he's going to have fighters like running at him, it is an excellent defense. It really makes it so Kisame can't really go through and absorb these large amounts of chakra from Naruto or Sasuke. And in Naruto's case, it would be detrimental and actually end him in the fight if he has no intel on that. I'll say this too, a lot of Naruto and Sasuke's attacks are also one-shot against Kisame. Rasen Shuriken and Amaterasu respectively. The reason it's going to be a lot is because there's going to be too much for Kisame to juggle to really unleash the giant water shark bomb that he did against Kisame. As if he charges it up to kind of wind at Naruto and shoot it at the Rasen Shuriken as Naruto throws it, he's just going to be leaving himself open for Sasuke's Amaterasu and vice versa. Kisame also doesn't really have a great way to get through Sasuke's Susanoo defense. His Susanoo isn't fully developed at this point, but he does have the partial Susanoo that was able to block Gaara, Temari Kankuro, and Daori's light attack, which none of Kisame's water style is going to penetrate. Naruto can even hide inside the Susanoo if he wishes. This Naruto also not going to be having the restriction of not being able to summon many clones like he did against Pain, so he can always have clones in the back gathering nature energy while he fights, constantly replenishing him. It just doesn't look too good for Kisame. Even his feats against B aren't the craziest for these two characters. Sasuke even being able to react to B, albeit in like a wider range, because B like lunges across a canyon, whereas Kisame's reacting a lot more close range, so I definitely think his feats are more impressive. But again, that Sasuke would go on to develop and grow stronger along with his perception abilities. Kisame's best win con is to fuse with Samehada and form the giant water shark bubble. And even in the shark bubble, if Naruto's in Sage Mode, he can't really absorb his nature energy or anything like that, but he can just attack Naruto while he's in there. Naruto won't be able to move that well. Same thing to Sasuke. If Sasuke's in that position, he actually will be able to. Sasuke probably won't be able to maintain his Susanoo while he's getting drowned from all angles, neither having the capability to breathe underwater to minor degrees like Killer B could. But even by that point in the fight, Kisame had been absorbing so much chakra from B that there was way too much of a difference for B to kind of overcome and make a comeback. But if he does go and like fuse with Samehada, he should be able to like just sap all of Sasuke's chakra very quickly. He's able to rip version 2 B's cloak completely off while in version 2. So it's just his chakra absorption also gets amped to another level. But due to the nature of how Naruto and Sasuke have a lot more like one shot and like instant, there's gonna be a lot more jumping. I don't think Kisame is gonna get the opportunity to really just summon that water shark bubble. He's just gonna have way too much coming at him. I think there's a good chance this fight ends earlier than later. He has Naruto in the form of a hard counter. He has Sasuke with all these instant kill techniques. This isn't even talking about if Sasuke's Susanoo develops, which I don't think is the most important. And I will admit that if Sasuke kind of does fatigue himself in the Susanoo, Kisame could take him out for an easy dub. But again, Naruto's kind of here to compensate for all of that. Kisame is also going to get absolutely dismantled by Frog Kata. So, you know, I do think there is a couple ways this can go. If Kisame does get enough momentum, I definitely think he can take a W. But with these two working together, Naruto losing that clone restriction, all these large-scale attacks. The proper defense is being in place in the form of the Susanoo. Kisame's best win con is there to like giant water shark bomb the Rasen Shuriken and nuke Naruto and Sasuke, and even then I think it's a little bit debatable. Or for him to summon the water shark bubble, in which case if he does get Naruto and Sasuke in there, he should have an easier time and should be able to take them out. But I definitely think Naruto and 5 Kage summon Sasuke, specifically Danzo fight, working together, do take this W. Next up, we have the 4 Shinobi War countdown. We have Yellow Mask Obito. I'm going to be honest, Obito washes Naruto and Sasuke at this point. Naruto has like unmastered KCM, which just isn't on the level of Minato. It's nowhere close. Like Naruto needs like to link up with Kurama to kind of like get to that Minato tier. In which case Sasuke's still blinded, not blinded, but he has bandages on from, you know, transplanting Itachi's eyes and fusing his Mangekyo. So at this point, they're just not going to be able to take down Obito. Obito's very relative to that Minato. They're like moving at similar speeds. That fight is like a one-touch win, but Obito is very threatening to Minato. Even Minato's own diction implies it as such. It's just very clear-cut at that point. So yeah, a Yellow Mask Obito would absolutely stomp both these characters at this point. Next up, we're going to move into like the actual war arc, the 4 Shinobi War. Now, I have to skip some matchups here, unfortunately, because Sasuke gets his EMS at the end of chapter 553, right after Naruto beats Lord Mu. And this essentially makes this so, like, Naruto had fought a bunch of these people with B aiding him, and I would essentially be replacing B for Sasuke with bandages, which wouldn't make any sense. So, like, I would have Sasuke with bandages versus Itachi and Nagato and the Raikage and Tsunade. It just wouldn't make sense. So, unfortunately, I have to skip those matchups just for the sake of, like, continuity and making the video more accurate. Next up, we have Sage Mode Kabuto. Now, Sage Mode Kabuto is very interesting, very underrated character. I feel like the community's definitely become more aware of him as time has gone on. We're going to have the Sasuke that fought alongside Itachi, although he's going to be performing a lot better this time. Obviously, he's not going to have any mental afflictions due to Itachi being there, any lingering questions he might have about himself or Itachi in general, along with losing the restriction of not having to kill Kabuto, along with Naruto, who's linked up with Kurama, KCM2, Naruto QB Link Mode, whatever you want to call that, with Naruto's absurd feats, absolutely dismantling the Tail Beast. I'll start off by saying that I definitely don't think Kabuto is a definitive like speed tier above this Naruto or Sasuke. I think he's, you know, generally I believe he's greater than Itachi in that fight, but there are moments where he blatantly is reacting alongside Itachi. They're dashing at each other from across the cave. Itachi can contend with him in close quarters, and even at points in the fight just nick his ear off and stuff like that. So, you know, he's not a definitive speed tier above Itachi or Sasuke for that matter, which would extend into this Naruto, who is stronger than both of those characters. Now, in this matchup, Kabuto has a big issue against Naruto because a lot of his hacks really aren't the most effective. One of his best responses is definitely the Sage Art Weight Extreme Attack, which Naruto might be able to move through, seeing as even when he gets blinded by Fu, the Edo Jinchuriki, he's still able to sense the hatred and like evil intent. Now, obviously, there's more to the Weight Extreme Attack. It works more like a flash bang and stun grenade all at the same time, rattling Itachi and Sasuke's very bones to the point they'd maintain their Susanoo. I definitely think Sasuke, everything stays the same. With Naruto, it's a little tricky. You should definitely flick Naruto in a similar capacity. A big point about the White Extreme Attack I don't see brought up is the fact that Itachi doesn't have his Susanoo up when Kabuto launches it at Sasuke, whereas Sasuke has his Susanoo up. And the reason this matters is because Itachi is actually able to form his Susanoo while Sasuke can't keep or like maintain his. And I, you know, some people have brought this up that Itachi's an Edo, which like will make him, you know, make it easier for him to kind of mitigate this. I don't think that necessarily matters in this case, as he's shown just as afflicted by this as Sasuke. I actually think it's a case of it's easier to initiate the technique than it is to maintain it when put under these conditions. So if Kabuto launches it when Sasuke and or Naruto don't have their avatars or like respective defenses up, I actually do think they would be able to erect them even though this technique is going down. Now, if they do have them active, it could be a different story, but that's just something I want to talk about because I don't see anybody bring that up when discussing this technique. Now, the question is, right, if Naruto enters the QB avatar at the start of the fight, and like, you know, maybe Sasuke goes inside the avatar with Naruto, would the White Extreme Attack really have that same level of effectiveness? Because Naruto's going to be at a much greater distance. Maybe he just instantly attempts to destroy the cave that Kabuto's chilling in, which also would hinder him as he's not going to have as great of a surrounding area to use inorganic animation, which quite frankly wouldn't be that threatening to Naruto or Sasuke either, as the only reason Sasuke was even like caught off guard or wasn't ready for it was because he didn't have his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan out, whereas Itachi did. That's why Itachi blatantly reacts to it, whereas Sasuke doesn't. It's also not going to be able to breach the QB avatar. Naruto might unironically unironically just swing his chakra around and destroy the cave, which isn't inconsistent as he's slapping away tailed beast bombs. The A-tails is able to destroy the entire forest and make it a clear area for him and Naruto to fight in. So Naruto should have no issues absolutely obliterating this cave. So a lot of Kabuto's advantages aren't really present or really great against Naruto. Even some of his more niche stuff like Tayuya's Sage Art, Genjutsu isn't the most effective, but because Kurama can break Naruto out of the Genjutsu by himself. And Naruto can go on to disrupt Sasuke's chakra. This also does depend on how Sasuke fights. If he separates from Naruto or Naruto just goes into the QB avatar by himself and doesn't bring Sasuke alongside with him. But essentially, Kabuto doesn't have too many options against this Naruto. He's more of a hacks fighter. He doesn't really have any of these overpowered large-scale attacks. He really was just trying to run up and Chakra Blade, place the tag in Itachi's head, or just using these various hacks like the Sound 4's abilities, liquefying through attacks via Suigetsu's ability, regenerating via Kerin being studied, along with like Aura Rebirth. He just has a lot of ways to come back, very similar to Orochimaru. But again, the problem is like none of this really matters against like a giant-tailed beast bomb on Naruto's parts. We already saw from Suigetsu that he couldn't completely liquefy through the 8-tails tailed beast bomb. He just got completely like he was like a putty. He was like pudding. Like there was no word to describe it. So clearly Kabuto's not gonna be able to do that. Even Aura Rebirth doesn't really matter, as if Orochimaru could just Aura Rebirth through a tailed beast bomb, he wouldn't have gone through the trouble of blocking it when he's fighting 4-tails Naruto. It's also isn't talking about how Sasuke is gonna be able to keep Kabuto at bay with large-scale Madarasu attacks. Sasuke also able to perceive Kabuto at this point in the fight. But even if you were to say like Kabuto was faster than that Sasuke, which is entirely fair and fine, Naruto can more than make up the difference at this point. This isn't even talking about how he can create shadow clones. He can have a clone gather nature energy in the Kurama avatar while he's fighting, along with other clones have the QB cloak on while they fight. So he can, and we do know that he can make like 11 clones bare minimum from that little feat mid-war arc. So this Naruto, we don't even want to think about how many clones he can make. So if you really want to take it there, he could start out in the QB avatar and make like 10 plus clones in their QB cloak and have them fight alongside EMS Sasuke against Kabuto in the cave. Or he could just have Sasuke sit back, have the clones kind of deal with Kabuto as he just charges up the tail beast bomb and completely atomizes Kabuto, as Kabuto will really have no answer for it. He doesn't have any of those substantial durability feats. Even his horn just gets cut by a basic sword, so he's not going to be able to tank too much. Same thing with like Entone. Kabuto's best way of winning, quite honestly, is for him to white extreme attack off the beginning of the fight. And even then, I think it's extremely questionable if that'd really be enough to KO Naruto at that point. Because right after that, Naruto can literally destroy the cave. He has a perfect win con for Kabuto. Kabuto really doesn't have anything to touch the QB avatar. 5 minutes is more than enough time for Naruto to take down Kabuto. Sasuke's really just support. I can't see them combining their like the Susanoo and QB avatar at this point, because Sasuke just hasn't mastered his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan to the point he has the perfect Susanoo yet. He only has that after fighting again alongside Itachi and fighting against Obito and just adapting alongside Naruto. So they're not obviously going to be able to combine it, but Sasuke is just really like weak in support for Naruto. They should be performing fine. Naruto can make many clones to assist him in this capacity. A lot of Kabuto's hacks really don't matter against this Naruto, even if you were to like somehow say he's faster than this Naruto. Which again, I don't think he's a speed tier above Itachi, so I don't think he's like on this Naruto's level in terms of speed. The QB avatar just mitigates. Sasuke's really just there for support. We're going to see like the full power Susanoo, all this stuff, Naruto's clones. Bijou Bomb is just kind of a wipe. So Naruto and Sasuke should clear Kabuto with mid to high diff, I guess you could say. It's kind of hard to gauge because you kind of have to like figure out how well Naruto does and how Naruto approaches the fight. But the end all be all is the minute he goes and links up with Kurama, it's just the end of the fight. Kabuto has no way to stop the QB avatar. Next up, we have White Mask Obito. Same thing. I think White Mask Obito dominates them. He's dominating a more developed Naruto. Sasuke also has no real way to like deal with Kamui at all. You know, a common thing you'll hear is like maybe Obito Kamui's away a Madarasu. He like absorbs into the Kamui dimension, and then like he might have to deal with that when he phases. Problem with that is when Obito Kamui something away, he can like kind of choose where he wants to put it in the dimension. As like we do know from the Kaguya fight, like he can mark different locations in space time. Now where Obito Kamui's depends entirely on where he is in like relativity to all that, because Kakashi got very lucky that he actually Kamui'd the knife that was passing through Obito because they were right next to each other. So like for example, right, had he Kamui'd that knife and it had been like 50 feet away from Obito, it never would have like hit his face or mask. So those factors kind of made it so he got very lucky and was able to start deducing Obito's ability. None of that's going to be like prevalent here. The Amaterasu wouldn't be anywhere near Obito. One of them's going to get BFR'd, in which case Obito's like, even if one of them's in the Kamui dimension, right? you'd have to argue like Obito puts them like right where he Kamui's them. In which case like Kakashi kind of got lucky. You could also maybe argue like Kakashi followed Obito's chakra signature or saw him phasing through. So there's all these factors, but regardless, like Obito is just very more comparable to like Edo Madara at this point. And he should be able to take down this Naruto and Sasuke pretty efficiently at this point. None of their ace jutsu like the Bijou Bomb or Inferno style or anything like that really have any or too much of an advantage against Obito at this point. Next up, I have Edo Madara. This is the same thing. Like I don't want to sound like a broken record, but Edo Madara is still stronger than Naruto and Sasuke at this point. He just casually suppresses Naruto with the wood-style dragon, like blows him back with his Uchiha Gunbai. And it's all this crazy stuff. So, Madara is the same thing. They don't really have it at this point. I will say, like, if you were going to argue for, like, a Sasuke and Naruto that should fight Madara, it should be the ones that are fighting against Jubito. But again, they're not at they're at that level of adaptation yet in the series. So, they would also lose to Edo Madara at this point. Perfect Susanoo would just sweep in conjunction with Wood Style. They just really don't have too much. But yeah, Edo Madara should clean pretty low diff. Next up, we have Zetsu Obito. Zetsu Obito is pretty powerful just because he's able to somewhat combat base Minato and War Kakashi. Problem is that we don't really see any of his capabilities. And the way that scene was phrased, it more so seems that Kakashi and Minato were like dodging attacks and they were getting ready to make their move against Obito because they were like, oh, Obito's consciousness is finally like he's lost the ability to fight it off, so it's time to make our move, Sensei. So with that in mind, like Naruto and Sasuke are a duo who was reacting to Ten Tails Obito and like fighting against him. They're able to fuse the Kurama avatar in a perfect Susanoo to make that armored Susanoo, in which case that's just gonna absolutely destroy Zetsu Obito. It doesn't really have too much offensive presence against this Naruto and Sasuke. Even in their own respective variations of their avatar, I would argue their stats would just be too high at this point. So, they should clear Zetsu Obito pretty low diff as well. He just doesn't have too much. And he is impressive, just like he's not 10 Tails Obito level, obviously. Which is what Naruto and Sasuke at this point are capable of perceiving and combating. Next up, we have a live Madara with no eyes. I think Naruto and Sasuke take this. Now, on top of like the Jubito stuff I just previously mentioned with them acclimating to that level of speed and power, the problem with this Madara is he's stronger than Edo Madara, right? Everybody knows this. Hashirama states it. The data books stated as well. The problem is that like he has no eyes, so it's like he's stronger, but he's still like an inferior fighter. Like you could still make a case like Edo Madara would still beat that alive Madara, just because like that Madara. We don't know if he has the perfect Susanoo. He has like the basic one with the legs that's mobile, but he doesn't even have like Hashirama Sage mode at this point. He doesn't really have too much. So, even if I gave him Hashirama Sage mode, he's obviously not as strong as Jubito. Even the back of the Naruto volume cover only states that he surpasses Jubito, even if you think that when he gets his Rinnegan. So it's just like for him to be able to combat Naruto and Sasuke and their respective avatars who are like fighting against someone stronger than Edo Hashirama is just it's too much. And the fact that they could fuse their avatars to make it stronger than the some of their parts would just be there's no real chance for Madara at this point. So again, maybe you could argue individually. You might also like argue why didn't they do this in the show? In my mind, they were recovering from like using so much chakra against Jubito that they thought they could probably take on Madara without expending too much, which is my logic for why they didn't just nuke him out of existence. But hey, that's just me. The Shinobi Alliance was also pretty tired from that tug of war. So everybody was kind of fatigued, and I guess they thought like they had a decent chance against Madara, but it just wasn't the case. But Naruto and Sasuke should take this one. And after this, for the last character on this list, we have a live Madara with one Rinnegan. I think this duo gets slammed. They just have no answer for Limbo at this point. Limbo will be able to smack them out of the Susanoo. On top of this, if they start off separated, Madara can summon the Ghetto statue to grab Naruto and like start pulling the Nine Tails out of him, and Naruto won't be able to dissipate the avatar. And he wasn't really able to stop the Ghetto statue in canon either. Yeah, he wasn't in Sage mode, but it's like he just wasn't. Maybe you could argue like Sasuke might be able to stop it, especially if Madara Susanoo can like cut the chains. I think Sasuke Susanoo would definitely be able to. You can make a pretty good case that like the Limbo clone might actually kick Sasuke out of the Susanoo. Maybe it's just there is no way to sensei. He's gonna get immobilized in the air. So you kind of have to argue they start in their avatars, and even then like Madara has options at this point. And you can even argue like maybe with one Rinnegan he might even be able to perform the perfect Susanoo. We just don't know. So they shouldn't really have too much of an answer for this Madara. This is especially prevalent if you think he's stronger than Jubito. You could even argue like he keeps Sasuke immobilized in the air as he summons the Ghetto statue to seal Naruto, which is really funny. So it's like, he could just deal with them one-on-one if he really wants to. So, that's the video. It was really long. I originally had a lot more matchups on this one too, but this video is so insanely long that I couldn't fit them all on here, or I just didn't want to make the video that long. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I sure did. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed anything you heard or enjoyed me, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye.